The global order is shifting, and the signs are everywhere. From the corridors of power to the streets of major cities, the world is witnessing a profound transformation in how nations align themselves and pursue their interests. Nowhere is this more evident than in Europe, where the winds of change are blowing with increasing force. Once considered the heart of Western unity, Europe is now at a crossroads, facing new questions about its future direction and alliances. Turkey and Serbia, two nations long tied to the European project, are now seriously considering joining BRICS, a bloc often seen as a counterweight to Western dominance. This is not just a diplomatic gesture, it's a potential pivot that could reshape their economic and political futures. This move signals deep frustration with the slow, uncertain path to EU membership and a growing desire for new alliances that promise more agency and opportunity. Across the continent, citizens and leaders alike are questioning whether the old promises of integration still hold true. For Turkey, a NATO member and EU candidate for decades, this is a clear sign that patience with the West is running out. Years of stalled negotiations and shifting goalposts have left many Turks feeling sidelined, prompting a search for alternatives that better reflect their national interests. Both Turkey and Serbia are recalculating their strategies, seeking to diversify partnerships in a multipolar world. They are exploring new economic ties, security arrangements, and diplomatic channels that could offer greater flexibility and influence on the world stage. Their interest in BRICS is more than symbolic. It's a test case for the future of traditional alliances like the EU and NATO. If these nations move closer to BRICS, it could set a precedent for others dissatisfied with the status quo, potentially triggering a broader realignment. The implications reach far beyond Ankara and Belgrade, challenging the EU's expansion policies and the US's influence over its allies. European leaders are now forced to confront the reality that their model of integration is no longer the only game in town. For BRICS, welcoming European members would be a symbolic victory, breaking down old divides and cementing its global status. It would signal that the bloc is not just a coalition of the global south, but a truly global force capable of attracting partners from every continent. We are witnessing a quiet revolution that could redraw the geopolitical map for generations. As new alliances form and old ones are tested, the choices made today will echo far into the future, shaping the destiny of nations and the balance of power worldwide. BRICS began as a catchy acronym in 2001, coined by a Goldman Sachs economist to describe the rising economic potential of Brazil, Russia, India, and China. At first, it was just a clever way to group these fast-growing economies, highlighting their potential to reshape the global landscape. These countries, each with unique cultures and histories, were seen as the new engines of global growth, challenging the dominance of established Western economies. But over time, the nations behind the acronym transformed it into a powerful political alliance, determined to have a stronger voice in shaping international rules and institutions, which had long been dominated by the West. The group's ambitions grew, and in 2010 South Africa joined, making it BRICS. This addition brought the African continent into the fold, expanding the group's reach and influence. The creation of the new development bank soon followed, signaling that BRICS was not just about talk, it was about action, with real investments and projects aimed at supporting development outside traditional Western channels. In 2024, BRICS took a bold step, expanding dramatically by welcoming Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, the UAE, and later Indonesia. This new phase, known as BRICS Plus, marked a turning point, making the group more diverse and influential than ever before. Today, BRICS Plus represents nearly half the world's population and commands over a third of global GDP, giving it unprecedented economic and demographic weight on the world stage. The bloc's ambitions are clear: to challenge the dominance of the US dollar, push for reforms in global governance, and create a more multipolar world where emerging economies have a real say. BRICS Plus also seeks to amplify the voice of the global South, advocating for fairer representation and more equitable development opportunities for countries that have often been sidelined. This vision of a more balanced and inclusive world order is attracting interest from countries like Turkey and Serbia, who are eager to join and help shape the future on their own terms rather than simply following the lead of established powers. BRICS has evolved far beyond its origins as a simple acronym. Today, it stands as a dynamic global force, reshaping the world's economic and political landscape. Turkey's journey toward the European Union has been a long, winding road marked by hope, setbacks, and growing frustration over the years. Decades of stalled negotiations, shifting requirements, and political disagreements have left Ankara feeling sidelined and uncertain about its future with Europe. Disillusionment has grown among Turkish citizens and leaders alike, as many now openly question whether the EU path is still worth pursuing, or if it's simply a distant dream. President Erdogan's government, reflecting this national mood, is no longer shy about exploring alternatives to the West, seeking new alliances and opportunities. The BRICS bloc, made up of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, now offers Turkey a new direction, one that promises economic cooperation without the political strings attached. Serbia's story echoes Turkey's in many ways. For years, EU membership has been the ultimate goal, a symbol of progress and belonging in Europe. But progress has been painfully slow, especially with the unresolved Kosovo issue casting a long shadow over negotiations and fueling frustration at home. Accession fatigue is real in Serbia, and public sentiment is shifting. Many Serbians are beginning to wonder if the EU door will ever truly open for them. BRICS, with its principle of non-interference and focus on economic partnership, is increasingly appealing. There are no demands about Kosovo, just the promise of mutual benefit and respect. For both Turkey and Serbia, BRICS represents a chance to escape the EU's endless waiting room and join a bloc of rising global powers, where their voices might carry more weight. The move east is not just about frustration or disappointment, it's about ambition, pragmatism, and the desire to find a meaningful place in a rapidly changing world order. Turkey and Serbia are sending a clear signal. They won't wait forever for Europe to make up its mind. They are ready to chart their own course. The door to the east is now wide open, and both nations are stepping forward, eager to seize new opportunities and redefine their futures on their own terms. BRICS leaders, especially Russia, have welcomed Turkey and Serbia's interest. For Russia, bringing a NATO member into BRICS would be a major geopolitical win, deepening divisions in the West. China sees new members as a way to expand its economic initiatives and global influence. India, Brazil, and South Africa view European interest as a chance to boost BRICS's legitimacy and diversity. The bloc's open-door policy is transforming it from an exclusive club into a global movement for those disenchanted with the Western order. Unlike the EU, BRICS doesn't require strict political alignment, just a shared desire for a more equitable system. This flexibility is a core part of its appeal, attracting countries even from the heart of Europe. BRICS is positioning itself as a home for nations seeking alternatives to the old order. Beyond politics, BRICS offers powerful and compelling economic incentives. The expanded bloc is a massive market, ideal for export-driven economies like Turkey and others. The new development bank provides funding without the strings attached by Western institutions or traditional lenders. BRICS's push for de-dollarization offers protection from US financial pressures and greater monetary independence. Membership could unlock investment from China, UAE, and others, fueling growth in key sectors. For Serbia, BRICS means new funding and partnerships, free from EU political demands or restrictions. Joining BRICS is about tapping into a dynamic ecosystem of growth, investment, and innovation. Turkey and Serbia's BRICS ambitions put the EU in a tough spot. The EU's promise of membership has long been its main tool for influence, but slow progress is eroding its appeal. If countries see BRICS as a real alternative, the EU's leverage weakens. Brussels faces a choice: double down on its values or find new ways to engage neighbors drifting east. Alienating Turkey could backfire, especially on issues like migration and security. The EU must adapt, perhaps by offering more flexible partnerships to keep countries close. The rise of BRICS is a wake-up call. Europe is no longer the only game in town. The EU must rethink its approach to remain relevant in a multipolar world. Turkey and Serbia's potential entry into BRICS signals a new era in global politics. The old US-led order is giving way to a multipolar world where alliances are fluid and power is more distributed. BRICS is now the leading platform for nations seeking alternatives to Western dominance. If Turkey, a NATO member, joins BRICS, it would shatter old East-West divides and force a diplomatic realignment. The world could see two parallel systems, the G7-led West and the BRICS plus bloc, each with its own rules and institutions. This competition will shape everything from trade to technology, making the global landscape more complex. Whether or not Turkey and Serbia join, their interest alone has changed the conversation and forced Europe to adapt. The era of a single dominant power is over, the age of many has begun,